It's episode 601 of the Locked On Texas Rangers podcast. On today's show, I'm going to be talking about Mitch Garver, who's absolutely crushing it, and a conversation that Adrian Beltre had with Marcus Semien and Andy Ibanez. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers. I'm your host, Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. It's Thursday, May 26th. Your Rangers are 19-23, still sitting pretty at third in the American League West. Thank y'all for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. You can go ahead and follow me if you're not already on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube. Well, we have come to a stall at 820 subscribers. I need some more help on that, y'all. And the best way you can grow the show is subscribe on YouTube and comment anything below. Comment, I like when Mitch Garver hits baseballs really hard. Comment, Bryce, you have a good dog on your shirt. That's why I bought the shirt. I'm not a Washington Huskies fan. I just like good dogs. And also, this is a nice purple t-shirt, and it's a very, very comfortable shirt. But today's episode is brought to you by RockAuto.com. Amazing selection, reliably low prices. All the parts your car will ever need at RockAuto.com. And tell them Locked On sent you. Now, on today's show, we're talking about a series split in Anaheim. The Rangers won 1 out of 2, which is what I wanted them to do. They almost won both of the games. They had a nice comeback that fell a little bit short. The Rangers didn't score in the first 7 innings of the game. The first game of this series on, I believe it was Tuesday. I don't really know what day it is. It has been a long and trying week for, I'm sure, many of us. But this is a good game for Mitch Garver, who had a multi-hit game, a home run. Adolis also had a multi-hit game. Jonah Heim had his 5th home run of the season. Garver also had his 5th home run of the season. Adolis Garcia had his 7th double of the season. Not a pretty decent overall defensive game. Corey Seager did have his 5th error of the year, but 3 double plays turned from Dane Dunning, who was working those ground balls very, very well, and Garrett Richards, who had his best performance as a Ranger, an inning and 2/3 of shutout baseball, only allowed 1 base runner, and I believe one of those 2 double plays happened while he was there pitching. But Dane Dunning worked around a whole lot of base runners, but just wasn't able to get these guys out. And a lot of just bad defensive plays in this one. The Angels scored 4 of their 5 runs in the 4th inning, and the Rangers just could not get it together defensively. This was just an awful inning for them, and they just kept giving away outs on the base paths, which you can't really afford to do. I mean, I think it was just the one error that happened in that game, but there was a lot more defensive miscommunications, that there could have been more outs there. It started with a Jared Walsh ground rule double down right center field. Then Matt Duffy singled him all the way over to third. Luis Rengifo grounded out, and it scored Jared Walsh. Another single by Brandon Marsh. Max Stassi hit a ground rule double. Just a lot of hits in a row. A sac fly, a walk. And eventually Mike Trout would end up flying out to end that one. But by the time the inning was done, the Rangers had allowed 4 runs. They had allowed a whole bunch of outs on the base paths. A bad fielding on a soft bunt to Dane Dunning, who normally takes a lot of pride in his defensive fielding as a pitcher. But the Rangers are, I believe, dead last in defensive runs saved by their pitchers. Their pitchers have done a really pretty horrible job, according to that stat, of defending their position. Now, I haven't seen a whole lot of, outside of that, and maybe a couple other, bad throws on pickoffs. They've just been, Martin Perez does a good job at filling the position, and, normally Dane Dunning does too, but this was just not his best day. But the Rangers were able to come back late. They had a home run, like I said, by Heim that made it 5-1 in the top of the 8th. Mitch Garver was able to homer to center field. His 5th of the season made it 5-2. Then Adolis Garcia doubled and scored Cole Calhoun, who continues to absolutely mash, and especially against his former team. Cole Calhoun has been on something fierce against his former team anytime he's played them, both with the Rangers and also with the Arizona Diamondbacks for the last couple of years. And I mean, Dane Dunning did end up going in an inning or 6 1/3 innings and struck out 8. Only walked 1. That is something that I really love. That is something that I really, really love to see from him. The one home run he gave up was to Jared Walsh, who again, one of the hottest hitters on the planet. That will happen, and it was only a solo shot, so you don't feel too bad about that. But he did scatter 11 hits through his 6 1/3 innings. Could have been a little bit better on that one. Could have had a little bit more early offense going against Noah Syndergaard, but Syndergaard was just fantastic. He was absolutely electric in this one. He struck out only 5 in 8 innings, but he went 8 innings. That is something that he hadn't done since he wore, well, I guess last year he's worn a Mets uniform every year until this year. So I think it's been since like 2016 or 2008. It's been a long time for him since he has gone 8 innings, and when he was very, very efficient with his pitches. I think he threw only 93 pitches, and he went through 8 innings. He got into a little bit of trouble in that 8th inning, which is when they had to bring in Aaron Loop, who Mitch Garver hit his home run off of, and Loop really doesn't allow many home runs. I think he only allowed 1 last year, and I think this was his first that he has allowed this year. But Loop is a guy who really does a good job of keeping the ball in the ballpark for as a reliever. But yeah, this is actually his second this year, but he only allowed 1 last year, and then in 2019 he didn't allow any. So yeah, not a guy who gives up a whole bunch of home runs. So getting a home run off of him is something that is very impressive. Also, something to note from this Wednesday game that the Rangers won 7-2. Sam Huff played first base. Now, Sam Huff still does not have an extra base hit yet this season, but he's hitting baseballs, a bunch of very, very hard hit singles. He's not quite getting balls up in the air as much. He is spraying these balls mostly to the left side of the infield, a little bit to the right side as well, and he is hitting baseballs very, very hard. His average exit velocity right now is 92.5 miles an hour. Now, he doesn't have enough at-bats to qualify to see where he ranks among the league leaders, but for some context, Corey Seager has an average exit velo of 90.2 miles an hour, so a little bit slower, and he is in the top 30% of baseball. So Huff would probably be in the top 25-ish percent of baseball, based on my estimation and math. He's been hitting baseballs very hard. He is not going to get a whole bunch of catching reps because Jonah Heim has been absolutely incredible. I mean, he's going to catch as much as he can, Jonah Heim is, and then Sam Huff is there basically just to spell him. And there's a serious possibility that Mitch Garver isn't going to catch for the rest of this year. But with the way he's hitting right now, it's absolutely insane. I'll talk about that much later on in the episode. But Sam Huff being at first base, he had a little goof, a little bit of a play defensively, but still a pretty solid outing. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this Rangers win, about a really, really solid performance by Glenn Otto, and finally some Rangers relievers getting to throw just a little bit when they hadn't been doing that very much in the last few games, which is still a pretty good thing. But first, this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why would you endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning, like is your Odyssey an LX or an EX, and wait while the person behind the counter orders parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why you spend up to 30, 50, even 100% more on the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. The prices are reliably low for every single customer. They got everything you need. Go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck right locked on in their How'd You Get About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. Recaps of MLB games with analysis from our local experts, taking fans through the season like no other network. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, everyone's favorite Ranger, or most people's favorite Ranger, or, I don't want to generalize, just a decent chunk of people's favorite Ranger, Adrian Beltre, came to town. He does that a lot. He lives in LA, kind of close to the Anaheim area. So every time the Rangers are playing the Angels on the road, Adrian Beltre is there to show up, hang out, say hi to some old friends, and occasionally do a TV interview with Emily Jones, who is very, very good friends with Adrian. Very delightful TV interview. I was only able to listen to a little bit of it because I was working, and so I wasn't able to devote my full attention to the greatness of Adrian Beltre as much as I wanted to. But one of the things that makes me happy about Adrian Beltre and also about Dirk, whenever they both talk about their lives post-retirement, is that they don't miss the game. They're happy where they are, spending time with their family, being good dads, being slightly overprotective, being very involved, things that you couldn't do when you're traveling so much and spending so much of your time in being one of the best to ever do it at your sport and at your position, which both Dirk and Adrian Beltre did respectively. But one of the things that Adrian Beltre talked with his team about is he talked with Andy Ibanez about some of his struggles offensively. Ibanez has been just really, really bad offensively, and a little bit of something to help him play better defense at third base. And of course, last night we saw Andy Ibanez make some pretty darn good plays defensively at third base, which, I'm not saying it's all Adrian Beltre. I'm just saying it's at least a little bit of Adrian Beltre. And something that Adrian Beltre knows as well is Marcus Semien, who is struggling pretty badly with his first big contract and the expectations that come with it. But Adrian Beltre knows a little bit of something about that. For the longest time in his career, Adrian Beltre was thought of as a guy, okay, well, this guy just plays for, and basically until he came to Texas, he was like, okay, this guy's got some flash in the pan, he's not that consistent a player. He only plays well in contract years. Because heading in his first contract years, last year with the Dodgers, he was 25 in 2004 and had the best season of his career at that point, and definitely for the rest of his career. He had 48 home runs, a career high. He'd never even hit 40 again in his career. He hit a slash line of 334, 388, 627. That's an OPS over 1,000. The only time he did that in his career. Had a 9.6, I believe, WAR season according to Baseball Reference, which was 9.6 WAR. His 48 home runs led Major League Baseball. He never did that again. He actually had more home runs than Barry Bonds that year. He finished second in NL MVP voting to Barry Bonds, who put up an absolutely insane year. That was also the year that Vladimir Guerrero Sr. won his first MVP. But a 10.6 WAR for Barry Bonds, who had a 609 on-base percentage and a 1422 OPS. Barry Bonds deserved that. But anyway, it came off that season, signed a 5-year contract with the Seattle Mariners, and $64 million at that point, which was by far the most he had ever made. And he came in to the Seattle Mariners. There's a lot of expectations. A-Rod had basically just left. It was 2005, so there was still Ichiro there. There was still a young rookie, Felix Hernandez, who was 19 years old, made his rookie debut, and a couple other guys with some expectations of being a contending team. Adrian Beltre comes in like, all right, we got this big guy, we got this big free agent, and he stunk. He stunk for his first 2 months in Seattle. Actually, pretty much his whole time in Seattle. He was not quite living up to the expectation that he had for himself. He had a 645 OPS in 24 games in March and April, and a 598 OPS, which is just very un-Beltre-like, in 26 games in May. He finished the year with a 716 OPS, which was the second lowest of his career at that point, outside of the first couple of games he played as a 19-year-old, which was not quite a full season. So he knows what he's talking about. And he talked with Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News about his horrible experience that year. And he said, you want to justify the contract, you want to live up to things for your new teammates and fans. It's not easy. It can be tough when you care. You just put too much on your shoulders. And Beltre is a guy who cared a whole lot. He wasn't able to show the kind of fun, relaxed dude who just enjoys life and enjoys playing baseball that he was later on in his time with the Rangers. He had a much better first season with the Rangers contract-wise first month as well. His splits were significantly different in 2011, his first year with the Rangers in April and May, 27 games. He had an 835 OPS and 7 home runs in his first month with the Texas Rangers. By that point, he was much older, but he had a very similar career path, he had a little bit more time, a little bit more hype coming up. He was 19 when he came up, played 77 games as a rookie, and it took Marcus Semien a little bit longer to get established. He was 22 when he first came up, 23. He played 64 games, and then he was 24 when he got traded to Oakland and played pretty much every single day in 155 games. But at this point, through their age 30 season, which was last year, they have the exact same number. Actually, let me scratch that. Marcus Semien has more top 5 MVP finishes than Adrian Beltre did at that point. In his age 30 season, he had not been an All-Star. Marcus Semien has been an All-Star once. He had 2 Gold Gloves, 1 Silver Slugger, and that top 10 MVP finish in 2004 when he finished second, which Semien has not finished second yet, which, he might do that next year. He might be saving that for next year. But anyway, Adrian Beltre talked a whole lot about that. And also, with Sam Huff getting more time at first base, Andy Ibanez has mostly been on the corners at first base and third base. And Nathaniel Lowe has been struggling. And there's a reason there's a short lease with Nathaniel Lowe and Andy Ibanez than there is with Marcus Semien. Marcus Semien has 2 top 3 MVP finishes. He's been in the big leagues for quite a while now. And those other guys don't. They don't have that cachet. They don't have that history of success. They don't have any top 3 MVP finishes between them in, I don't think, maybe any league. Definitely not the major leagues. Definitely not the American League. So, again, there's a little bit longer of a leash, and I think he's still figuring out. I thought he had his first home run of the season. I really thought he had it in this 7-2 win on Wednesday night. He instead had his first triple of the season. He hit the ball at 99 miles an hour off the bat. He hit it so hard. 99.1 miles an hour, 29-degree launch angle, 352 feet to left center field. Hit off the base of the wall. Ended up turning it into a triple. Had a 2-hit game in this one. Also had a 99-mile-an-hour sac fly to center field. Really, really strong game for him. I just want him to get his first home run. I thought he'd do it in Houston. I really did. I thought maybe he'd do it now. Maybe he's saving it for when he visits his hometown, his old stomping grounds against the A's. He's got 4 games to do it there. His bat is looking much, much better. He's feeling more confident. The rest of this lineup is doing really, really well. And I want to get into a little bit more of this Wednesday game. I really need to talk about how great Glenn Otto was and about how fantastic Mitch Garver has been as well. But first, I want to talk to you guys about LinkedIn. With spring in the air, it's time for renewal and growth both personally and professionally. As your small business grows, LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easy to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a job post in minutes on LinkedIn to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of 810 million people. Then add your job to the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word you're hiring so your network can help you find people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience that you can quickly prioritize who you want to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million people, job seekers, visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free on linkedin.com/LockedOnMLB. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnMLB to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Now, let's talk about this game on Wednesday, a 7-2 victory for the Texas Rangers. Another great outing for Glenn Otto, who probably could have gone a little bit longer in this one. Went 5 innings, struck out 7, only walked 2. This was the classic Glenn Otto, good command kind of game. When he's on it and he is hitting his spots, he is very, very effective. When he's not, he is significantly less effective. He only threw 87 pitches in this one, only allowed 3 hits and the 1 run, but still, very nice outing from him. Didn't worry too much about him only going 5 innings because, again, this bullpen has barely thrown in, kind of the last week, basically since that Martin Perez start. They were going in, and they were kind of tired because they had that 8 games in 7 days. They were just really overworked, and the starting pitchers weren't going quite as deep into games as they would have liked. But this is a great offensive day as well. The 6th home run of the season for Mitch Garver, 7th home run of the season for Cole Calhoun, who also had his 4th double of the season. Cole Calhoun, again, continues to absolutely destroy baseball. And Mitch Garver hitting at the 3-hole in the lineup. I really, really like that. Marcus Semien hitting leadoff, Corey Seager hitting in second. So you can put Eli White and occasionally Brad Miller down a little bit lower in the lineup, which, again, I think is kind of where they should be. You can also put Jonah Heim in your 4-hole, which I like a little bit better than Adolis Garcia. He's putting up a little bit better numbers than Adolis, actually significantly better. At this point, he has a 201 point gap in between them in terms of OPS, and he's also the leading batting average guy on the Rangers at this point if you exclude Sam Huff and his very few plate appearances. But yeah, a 3-hit game for Cole Calhoun, who looked incredible. Heim in the cleanup role, I like that a lot, and moves Adolis down to the 5-hole. Honestly, might be okay with Adolis going down a little bit further and putting Cole Calhoun in the 5-hole and Adolis in the 6-hole. I don't know. Just get that super, super hot Cole Calhoun bat a little bit higher in this lineup. Still not sure how I feel about Adolis. The changes that they've been saying he's making, he hasn't made a whole lot of. But anyway, Mitch Garver, another home run in this one. He has 3 straight games where he has hit a home run, and they have not been cheapies. Off of Reed Detmers, he had a 102.7 mile an hour homer, 401 feet, and that home run off of Aaron Loop was absolutely blasted. 108 miles an hour off the bat, 420 feet. The Rangers are going in to face the A's for 4 games, and the A's are not a lie-down opponent at this point like we thought they'd be. You know, they are doing really, really well. They are just coming off of winning 2 out of 3 in Seattle, including where they had their reigning Cy Young winner, Robbie Ray, on the mound. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive from a team that does not hit very well. But again, Mitch Garver in that DH role has been extremely effective so far, and as of late, his last 7 games, he has been absolutely crushing it. He's got those 3 home runs. He also does have 7 strikeouts, but he got a slash line of 308, 345, and slugging 769 in his last 7 games. That is some really, really impressive stuff. You know the strikeouts are going to be there. He does still have a little bit of a strikeout problem, but he's also very patient. It's kind of contradictory. A guy who is very patient and does take a lot, does swing and miss quite a bit, but he's fairly patient. He's putting up some good offensive numbers, and the Rangers need that bat in there in the middle of their lineup. Right now, he is 12th on this team in WAR at 0.3, and when he's doing that as pretty much just a DH only guy for the foreseeable future, that is some very, very valuable stuff. And again, most of these Rangers bats have kind of figured it out. We're starting to go through. We had Jonah Heim at the very start of the season, who was absolutely crushing it. Took a little while, and then Cole Calhoun started figuring out. Now we also have where'd we go? Mitch Garver. Corey Seager's already kind of figured it out. Once Marcus Semien starts going, this lineup is going to be just deadly, just absolutely deadly. And you know he's starting to get going. We'll see it a little bit more. Maybe the talk with Adrian Beltre. Maybe just give him his phone number, and you know they'll text a little. I'm sure they have exchanged phone numbers, and they'll exchange text a little bit. Adrian also said he doesn't watch every single game, but he does keep up with the highlights and keep up with the Rangers. By the way, he also talked about spending time with his son, and that he gets too involved in things when he's involved in something. Like he goes all the way in, and he needs to be with his family right now, especially his son, who is in the draft class of 2024. He is a third baseman and a pitcher. And seeing some highlights of him, oh my God, he is a chip off the old block. Got an absolute cannon of an arm, which is going to be very effective as a 2-way player on the mound and at third base. I think he wants to stick as a 2-way player, and he is so talented and comes from a pretty good gene pool. I mean, we've seen how good these guys can be, these sons of former players that are pretty much running the freaking game right now. Fernando Tatis Jr., Vladimir Guerrero Jr., all the other young guys whose fathers were in the big leagues and were pretty darn good big leaguers. If they're anything like them, then this is if Adrian Beltre Jr. is anything like his father, then he's gonna be special. I don't know if the Rangers are gonna be bad enough to pick him in the class of 2024. I kind of wish a little bit that he grew up in the Dominican or at least went through that program where he was 15. He could go and sign, but you know, Adrian's doing what he thinks is best for his son and staying stateside and playing in America and playing for a California high school, showing off his skills that way and getting an education in America. You know, probably the best thing for his son, but I'm going to let Adrian Beltre decide how to parent his own kids. And so this has been an encouraging last couple of days, baseball-wise, life-wise. Just the struggles and of just dealing with life going on right now and the tragedy that happened in Uvalde. I could not put out a podcast yesterday. It just felt super disingenuous. I did watch the game. I did watch the Mavs game because it's my job, and I felt nothing. I felt absolutely nothing watching sports on Tuesday night after what happened there. And I'm not going to turn this into some political whatever. It's just, you know, it's just one of those moments where it kind of makes you stop and think about, okay, what's really important? So, called my parents and talked to them and just something. You got to spend some time with your family. Go hug your kids. This is just one of those moments that it's just absolutely depressing, earth-shattering, and, frustrating. It feels like there's nothing you can do, and like it's not going to get any better, and like nothing else matters, and that's just a really, really tough thing. So, yeah. But thankfully, some hopefully good things are on the horizon for this weekend. I just had to do a podcast today. I had to get my mind off of that and all of that tragedy. Go focus on some silly grown men in pajamas hitting balls with sticks really hard and throwing them really hard too. It's just some kind of therapy, and I'm sorry that I wasn't able to provide that for you all a little bit of an escape yesterday, but I just could not bring myself to do it. But yeah, also kind of wild that I hit 600 episodes this week. Kind of special, but yeah, just a really tough week. If you need some baseball to escape, thankfully there's plenty of baseball going on. There's Jack Leiter, which I might be at Friday night to go see him. My brother's coming in town to celebrate his 30th birthday. So there was some good things. I posted on Twitter if you want to go join the thread or look for some kind of optimism, just like, hey, what is something good that's happened to you, or just a picture of your dog or cat or whatever little animal you have, because it's been a depressing couple days. Also, there was nearly another mass shooter at my rival high school. Berkner High School was where I went to Lake Highlands, and so I was on the swim team, and Berkner High School had the pool, and so I just found out last night that there was nearly another mass shooting there. And so, yeah, kind of a surreal moment. Thankfully, there wasn't, and the police were able to get involved and arrest the person before any damage was done. But this has been a tough week to be a human being. So, focusing on baseball definitely helps that. Also helps when the Rangers are winning, or if they're losing, just to have some intense feelings about something that is kind of trivial. It is important, like it is nice, and I do value the fact that I get to do this for a living. But there are some moments like that when you step back and think, and I'm sure other people have this thought as well, like, why don't I go be like a doctor saving lives, or why am I not like a fireman, putting out fire? It just, certain things like that kind of make things feel trivial, but it is important. There is some value in doing other things, stepping out of your comfort zone and trying to give people a little bit of an escape, and I hope that I can do that. I hope that I can provide that for y'all. 30 minutes a day just to listen to somebody have some sometimes good, sometimes entertaining, sometimes really stupid opinions about baseball, and just get your mind off of some things that are crappy, or some things that are frustrating, or some things that are downright horrifying. So I really do put a lot of effort in this podcast, and I hope that it can bring you that. Now, 4 times this week, I might try and put out another couple episodes, but we'll see. You're probably only getting one more from me this week. Going to record it after work, after 1 a.m. So it'll be ready for you in the morning on Friday, so I can spend the entire weekend with my family, delightfully offline, catch up with the games on Sunday, and then provide y'all another episode on Monday. But yeah, it's been a tough week. Go check out my Twitter. I posted a thread of just people looking for optimism. If you're looking for some, there's some really great moments in there for some things to share. And if you have anything to share, just some hope, or some cute dog pics, or baby pics, whatever you got, I'll take whatever you got, because it has been really tough. But I really do appreciate every single one of y'all. I do try and do my best to give y'all those moments, and I hope I've done my best with that. The Rangers are going into Oakland for 4 games. Let's look really quickly at these Oakland A's and what the heck they have been doing. Right now, they are 19-27. In 4th place, they are ahead of the Mariners. That's kind of actually really ridiculously hilarious. Their hitting has been pretty atrocious. There's nobody in their everyday starting lineup, at least according to Baseball Reference, that has an OPS over 700. The only person on their entire team who has an OPS anywhere near over 700 is Luis Barrera, who is 26-year-old. He plays outfield. He's played in 16 games, just under 50 plate appearances, has an OPS of 883, only has 1 home run. Nobody on the team has more than 5. It's basically just been pitching. Starting pitching has been pretty good. Frankie Montas versus Martin Perez in his 200th career MLB start. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. Then they also have Paul Blackburn, who has been crushing it, a sub-2 ERA in just under 50 innings. He has been really darn good. Cole Irvin has been really darn good for them. And also, their bullpen has been fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Danny Jimenez, the 28-year-old closer, has a .49 ERA in 18 1/3 innings. An ERA plus of 734. Absolutely insane. AJ Puck, the longtime heralded top prospect, who is 27, and I think they've just kind of decided to put him in the pen, which is a bummer for them. Great for the Rangers, because if he lived up to his potential, which they might still put him back in their starting rotation, and he'll end up being just as amazing as they thought he'd be. But anyway, he has a sub-1 ERA in the pen in 19 innings, and Sam Maul, the 30-year-old reliever, has a .61 ERA in 14 2/3 innings in the pen as well. So they've been winning a lot of close games. The Rangers have also been winning a lot of close games with a lot of great pitching, and the Rangers' bats are starting to heat up. They finally got 7 runs after being held to 3 or fewer runs every game in this road trip, so hopefully those bats can continue to mash. We can get another Mitch Garver home run. We'll have 4 in 4 games, and who knows, even Marcus Semien's first home run of the year. Y'all, thank you so much for listening and making this your first listen every single day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully. He gives you his unique perspective around Major League Baseball, both past and present. It's free and available wherever y'all get your podcasts. I'll have another podcast for you recapping this Thursday night game. Hopefully a winning game for Martin Perez's 200th start, and maybe even Marcus Semien breaking out of that homerless drought. But either way, it'll be ready for you in the morning. Y'all, thank you so much, so much for listening. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.